going on his rant, being pissed off at whatever he's pissed off about, most likely that shirt, it seems like the instructor is trying to get his attention and turns into one of the village people out of nowhere.
Young man! Young man!
Now, I'm not really clear on the full details, but from what I understand, the Wing Chun teacher, Rahsun Herkul, was teaching a Wing Chun class from his home, and this Jeet Kundo student had something to say while Rahsun was doing like some kind of kicking demonstration with a student or a participant that was there. So whatever the kick was that Rahsun wanted his partner to defend against, the Jeet Kundo guy in the striped shirt, who everyone is calling Waldo now.
Yo, while everyone else is just speculating, we're about to give you the facts from the man himself.
That young man is 34 years old, grown man with enough sense to know better than to do what he did when he was here. And you're not gonna touch me in my face and expect for that to happen, right?
Kung Fu Chronicles, we are in the house and actually out here in Sherman Oaks, California. This time, another 5 crucial questions for yet another Kung Fu master. We'll be speaking to Master Rahsun Herkul, who practices Wing Chun Kung Fu out here in LA, the Valley specifically. And listen guys, if you haven't already, go ahead and smash that like button for me. Let us know you're enjoying the content so we can create more for you. And of course, comment down below, let us know your thoughts on who you'd like to see in upcoming episodes. Make sure you stay to the very end of this video because Master Herkul is going to show us a few self-defense moves from Wing Chun. All right, let's do it. Master Rahsun Herkul, how are you, sir?
I'm pretty good.
First of all, you're from Brooklyn, right?
Yes.
I'm actually from Queens.
All
so
right.
Got the New York thing going.
East Coast, that's right.
Kind of like that Captain America, Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Where you from?
Queens?
Brooklyn.
You got it.
So we already doing that.
All right.
That's cool. And how'd you get started in martial arts?
You know, in Brooklyn, in the 70s, kind of rough neighborhood, didn't have big brothers and stuff like that. You know, if you were, in my neighborhood and you had a big family, you was relatively safe. I didn't have a big family in the neighborhood, and I didn't have anyone to protect me from like the bigger, tougher guys, so I figured I had to figure out how to, do it myself. My uncle kind of took me to some kung fu movies when I was a kid, watching like Shaw Brothers stuff on the Deuce on 42nd Street. And I was like blown away by the martial arts movies and anything that even remotely resembled that. I was there as a kid. And back then we didn't have like much parental supervision. We were like kids exploring, I played hooky a lot. Don't do that, kids.
Now come on now.
When I was younger and I was getting my education in the streets, running to like the Deuce when I was too young, watching kung fu movies, getting excited by that. And then if there was anything even remotely kind of resembling martial arts or acrobatics or something like that in my neighborhood, I took it on. So if there was a guy in the neighborhood who did boxing or judo or kickboxing, I would go and train with them for a bit. If there was somebody in the park training some martial arts, I was there. At the center there, if they were doing something, I was there. So I kind of went through a succession of martial arts-ish schools or people that trained until maybe I was about 9 or 10 years old. And I met the teacher I'm with to this day, Master Philip Redmond. I met him in Brooklyn in Fort Greene Park. After watching him just beat up two of my former teachers, right?
All right.
So I just seen him beat up two of my former teachers effortlessly, and that's another whole story. But at the end of that, he was like, you know, you guys are pathetic, and if any of you kids want to learn some real kung fu, you can come with me. And I just grabbed my bag and left with him. And I was about nine years old at that time, 9 or 10, 1979. I left with Master Redmond. He was my new Sifu. I started training. Before that, I was doing 7-star praying mantis.
Who'd you do before that?
Just before that, 7-star praying mantis with this guy named Khalid, who's, rest in peace, he passed away. Excellent forms martial artist he was. And Philip Redmond, who was known as Bilal at that time, was, I had heard of him. I heard he was a tough fighter, and now I got to see him in action. So I started training Fujapai under Master Redmond. And then when I became one of his closed-door students, he started to teach me Hungar. And then just one day, I asked him, I was like, Sifu, you know all these fighting styles, which one do you use when you fight? And he said, I use Wing Chun when I fight. And I was like, oh wait, what's Wing Chun? And he's like, no, that's the system I use when I'm fighting. All this other stuff is just. I'm like, well, wait, hold up. I want to learn that. And he's like, well, you were doing the pretty stuff before you met me. I thought you wanted to do the fancy. I said, no, I'm with you because I want to learn how to fight like you. Okay, so we switched over to Wing Chun, and I just like kind of threw everything else out. Not really, but kind of just wanted to focus on Wing Chun. After a year or so of training Wing Chun under Master Redmond, I'd found a few things that were intuitive, like Bong Sao Lap Sao was pretty intuitive for me. But there were a lot of things in the system that I had certain issues with, you know, because I was young. I was like 11, 12 years old. And some of the structures in Wing Chun and the footwork, it was a bit awkward for me at that time. And then Master Redmond heard of Grandmaster William Chung giving a seminar in LA. Master Redmond flew out to LA for the seminar, came back to New York after the seminar with his sash in his hand saying, I'm no longer a master, I'm starting off as a beginner now under this guy William Chung.
Okay.
So if you guys want to leave, I understand. And I was like, shit. I want to stick around. So I stuck around, and the Wing Chun started to change. I want to say evolve, right?
Okay.
But the Wing Chun started to change. And then finally, in 1984, this is in 83 when this happened, July of 83.
Gotcha.
By February of 84, we had convinced Grandmaster Chung to come to New York to do a seminar. He didn't want to come to New York because he said it smells bad.
Yeah.
But we convinced him to come to New York in 1984, February, we got him to come to New York for a seminar. We had a couple hundred people there, paying maybe a couple $100 a person to do a seminar. It was interesting to have him there. And it really kind of changed my perspective on things. And I had questions about the footwork and about the structure, and he kind of just fine-tuned things for me in a way that I could understand. And before then, a lot of my seniors, when I would ask them questions about structure or something like that, they'd try to lose me in the conversation. Now, I wasn't smart enough to have the answers, but I wasn't as stupid as I looked apparently. So I knew that you were being evasive, you know, that they weren't answering the questions for me because maybe they didn't know it or maybe they wanted to seem like they knew more than they did. But when it came to Grandmaster Chung, I would ask him questions and he would square look me in the eye. And again, I'm 12 years old, right? No one looks at a 12-year-old in the eye, right? They're talking down to him. And you know, I would ask questions and Grandmaster looked me in the eye and explained to me as easily as he can, as simply as he could. And I always felt like when he did seminars and I was there, like he was, of course, the mark of a good spokesman, right? A good speaker. But it sure seemed like he was talking to me and only me the whole time. You know?
You talking to me?
Yeah.
That's the mark of a good speaker, right?
Absolutely.
But to me, I'm like, man, he's talking to me, you know? And it seemed like he wouldn't move on to the next topic until he knew that I personally understood what he was talking about before we moved on. And I felt like that in every seminar that we went to. So again, it kind of changed the structure, you know, and I'm Master Redman's student, one of his top, well, I'm his top student. And Grandmaster Chung kind of took me under his wing since I was a kid. So now I have the benefit of having Master Redman, who is a closed-door student of Grandmaster Chung, and Grandmaster kind of taking me under his wing as well for all these years. Kind of that's the benefit of some of the benefits I've had for being kind of in this lineage.
From there, the transitioning over from student to teacher, what motivated you want to do that? Because didn't I read you were out in Australia teaching?
Yeah, well, for me, Wing Chun was just a passion and art. I loved growing with it. I loved getting better and more proficient at it. It's like, if you like math, then you'll never be bored, right? Wing Chun is like, with learning this art is kind of like having waking up every morning to a Christmas toy, because I have a new toy that I can play with. You know, it's like math, you know, you can constantly focus on one aspect and just fine tune it, and another and fine tune it. So you're always growing. So that was pretty much my thing. I'm just growing and training. I was I want to say a gray sash for maybe over a decade, and then my Sifu, Master Redman, and Master Keith Maza, they're the two top masters in our country, in our lineage. Called me out to New Jersey, and they were like, "Oh yeah, oh Sifu Herkul, oh show them your form." And you know, I'm like young. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna show you my form, right?
Right.
And they're like, oh yeah, show you this and show you that. Oh hey, you wanna do a sparring session? Oh yeah, oh, you got the, yeah. So I'm gonna do the sparring session, and we're just having fun, I think, right?
Right.
And at the end of the day, Master Redman and Keith Maza and Master Maza tell me, so Rahsun, you know what you just did? And I'm like, what? And they was like, you just passed your Sifu sets. Here's your fucking sash and your.
Wow. Okay.
Because I was never really that motivated to take the Sifu's test, right?
Okay, got you. Okay.
So they tricked me into taking my Sifu's test.
That's interesting.
Right. That was, I think, I want to say in '97, right? And so I was a Sifu for a while, and then eventually they didn't have to trick me into anymore, right? I took my level 2 provisional master test because I'm like, it's about time, right? I've got my swords. I've been doing sword techniques for 15 years with Grandmaster Chung. So then I took my level 1 and 2 provisional master test together. And then a couple of years later, I decided I'd take my 3 and 4 together. So now I'm a level 4 provisional master. Our system has 6 levels to full master. So I have 1 more grading before I'm a full master in our lineage.
So then you came back to LA, I guess, and then started teaching out here?
Well, what happened was my grandmother wasn't doing too well in New York. My brother wasn't around to take care of her. So I ended up leaving Australia to fly back to New York to take care of my grandmother, with the intent of kind of putting Kung Fu to the side and just focusing on taking care of my grandmother. At that time, one of my students from 30 years ago, from the 90s, came and brought his son to me and was like, Sifu, please, I need you to train my son. This was at a time when, again, I'd already said I'm not going to teach. I'm just going to focus on my grandmother, right? But there was also, I had a little bit of self-doubt. There was something going on. I won't go too deep, but I was doubting myself and my skills. And I was wondering, and I said, well, you know what? This young man has never thrown a punch before in his life, has absolutely no muscular definition, doesn't know how to make a fist, can't kick past his knees. I'm going to take this young man on, and I'm going to commit to him. And I'm going to give him everything he can take. And we're going to see how good of a teacher and a martial artist I really am. Yeah, we'll see right now. Okay. All right, I'll accept him as a student. And I accepted him as a student, and that's Zig Short, my student, Isaac Sloan. After a couple of years, he says, oh, he wants to fight. So the next few months, we trained him for a fight, and he went in and fought in these underground fighting competitions. In fact, I think all my students in the East Coast fought in this underground fighting competition called Man Up, Stand Up.
Yeah. Was it like, in the East Coast?
the Bell Bell.
Yeah. That was Black Dallas. I
Yeah.
actually interviewed him a while ago. Yeah.
And Isaac got his nickname from there, Little Yip Man.
Okay.
Right. It
Nice.
was his first fight. He fought a more seasoned fighter. But yeah, so Isaac turned out into a really good Sifu. I don't think I could have done any better. I brought him to Grandmaster Chung for his grading because I didn't want any bias, so to speak. I didn't want to grade
Understood.
myself.
Right.
Brought him to Grandmaster Chung. He graded under Grandmaster and got some of the highest scores in as you know, for Sifu. So I'm very proud of him with that.
That's awesome. Be remiss if I didn't, of course, bring up with, like, it's been brought up now, the Waldo fight.
Man. Yeah, it's disrespectful. So what, you want to put some gloves on, man? You want to spar? You want to put some gloves on right now? Give this man some gloves. Since you want to be up here, because I will knock you the nigga. Knock you the knock you.
Now with that, I don't want to harp too much on it, but at the same time, I would love to get your take on it. Not necessarily the whole super story, but just kind of, because I think a lot of people will see things like that and kind of see it's like you're taking it out of context, and of course there's a backstory to it. So, you know, as a martial artist, for me personally, I was always taught you don't go into someone else's house and cause trouble, stir up. If you got an issue or a question, you always ask the instructor on the side or afterwards or beforehand. But just a little bit of your take on that and the aftermath a little bit.
Right. So one of my former students who was having some trouble in his life with life choices and so forth, I thought it better that he not be with our group anymore because the energy didn't match anymore. So recently he gave me a call and said, listen, he wants to get his life back together and he really wants to get back into training. And I was gracious and said, you know what, sure, you can come back. And he said, I also have a friend who's also into martial arts and would like to join, interested in joining the class as well. Do you still give a free introductory class? And I was like, well, I don't do anything for free. What I do is evaluation. So you can come by and I'll check out and see if you guys suit my class. And if you suit the energy right, then fine, that you can join the class. But don't think that you're just going to come here and join the class because that's not how it's going to work. Right? So they come in and before the class starts, I come in and set a camera up to kind of document the class, and the training and everyone's progress. So there's a big, a wide camera going from the beginning, and the two gentlemen come in, and he introduces me to his friend, and I'm like, well, okay, so I'll tell the students, you guys know what to work on. I'm going to work with the new guy, and we're going to, I'm going to focus on him and give him the attention, and then you guys work and we'll get back to you guys. So I started to explain to him about stance and footwork, but he seemed to have his own preconceived notions about stance and footwork, and he didn't feel like emptying his cup. So I was like, you know better than me. Fine, right? I don't know what you're here for then. If you're right, but it's okay. So then we won't deal with stance anymore. We'll move on to something that a little bit, a little more fun. Something I developed, a drill I call Lao Sao drill, and we can work with that. And so I started working with him on the mechanics of the drill, and in the very beginning, so part of the drill is I'm going to parry and punch, and you have to counter my parry. So I'm working on it with him, and then he does the punch, and I said, what I'm going to try to do is parry and punch, and I want you to counter it. And when I did parry and punch, he leaned right into my fist. But it was just a little love tap, nothing much, right? But I was like, well, that's kind of the reason I want to work in this drill with you, so that you don't, make those mistakes like that, lean in head first. His energy was really just not okay before that, and it was not okay after. So I'll tell you. So then we're still working on the drill, trying to get him to counter some punches, but his energy he just couldn't follow the drill for some reason.
Okay.
And then he just flipped out and was like, I'm not here for all this bullshit, man. I'm not here for this shit, man. I had a rough week, I thought we was gonna do some meditation. I ain't thinking. I'm just like, wow, this guy just slipped out. Yeah. All right. And I said, okay. My student Julian, I told Julian, listen, he didn't know we were going to do all of this. He thought we were going to do some type of meditation. So why don't you work with him on Sealam Tao? Let him calm down a bit, and we're going to work over here. So my student Julian St. Jacques, by the way.
Okay, I got you.
Right? My student Julian steps over to the side to work with him on Sealam Tao. So we're all training, and this guy is off on the side, kind of glaring, watching the lessons. So I don't mind, I'm focused on my students. Then he goes over to my wooden dummy and he starts playing around on my wooden dummy. I'm like, I'm not gonna let it mess up the flow, right? So I'm still with my students. Then he comes over, he's like making a little counterclockwise, right?
He's running the circuit.
Right? Running the circuit, right? Then he goes over to the chair, sits down, and actually takes a nap.
Wow.
Okay, during my class.
Crazy.
So I'm still running drills. The class is almost over. I asked the students, anything else you want to put in the drill? They're talking about a kick. We're putting this little kick in for my students to counter. And he wakes up from his nap and says, oh yeah, well, not for nothing, but that kick is all wrong and your sin is open and your groin is open and whatever else he said.
Right.
So I continue the drill until I close it out with my student. And I gave him an opportunity and I reached over and said, excuse me, did you say something?
Right.
And he doubled down. He said, I said your kick is wrong and your groin is open and you're not kicking up the center. At this point, I'm like, you know what? I've had enough of this guy. You know what? Why don't you come show me what you're talking about? So just as he gets up, his friend goes, oh, you know, all this fighting stuff. And he goes, no, fuck that. He want the real thing. Nah, you better get him a cup because I'm going to really kick this motherfucker. He thinking, I ain't with all this talking shit. Yo, I'm going to. So then he lived up and I'm like, oh, okay, this guy wants to fight me.
He brought that kind of energy.
He brought that kind of, okay. So he gets up and runs over. He wants the real thing. And he kicks my heavy bag like he's trying to intimidate me. So I put my gloves on. And then he says, oh, you know, well, we kick like this. And, you know, we have this kick. And if you use that leg, I'm going to kick here. And if you use that leg, I'm going to kick here. And I'm thrown off a bit because I'm like, that's not the energy you just had like
my
2
man,
seconds
like,
ago,
yeah.
right? You was all this lives and you challenging me to a fight now.
Yeah.
But now you're getting up and you want to give a lesson. So I'm listening to his lesson, and then I'm like, well, he said he's not all about this talking shit, he's about the fight. And I'm like, well, why don't we just do what we said we were going to do, right? And I'm going to go nice and slow, and I'm going to go nice and easy, so you can see what's going to happen. And he exploded again. Nah, fuck this shit, because I'm not going to, you know, I ain't with all this talking shit, you're going to have to get some gear, and you're going to have to, and I'm just like, young man, you know, trying to calm him down.
Right.
You know, young man, listen, let's just take this down a notch. But he kept getting a bit belligerent. And then he says to me,
Fucking class
You've
talking
been
shit.
disrespectful the whole time, bro. You've been putting me down the whole time since I've been here, bro.
That's how you feel, my man?
Yeah, it's been disrespectful.
That's the other way around.
yeah, right? And I'm like, okay. I was gracious to this guy the whole time he was here. And for him to say that, you know what? Let's get back to what you said you were going to do. Get this man some gloves. Because right now, I'm about to fuck you up.
Yeah, you're on
Right?
that. Yeah.
It's just enough of this. So he turns around and presses his head against my face. It's a headbutt to me.
Yeah.
Right? So as soon as he touched my head, I, straight from the first technique of the wooden dummy form, I grabbed the back of his neck and punched him in the face. Closed the gap with a few punches, did a almost textbook 360 takedown, maintained side position on the blind side. I wanted to chain punch him, but I thought that wouldn't be a good idea, right? So I just hit him a couple times. He grabbed me, I opened him up, put him on the ground, and I wanted to elbow him in the face. But I said, that wouldn't be nice, right?
Yeah, no, but I get it. Yeah.
So I grabbed his elbows and said, come on, get up and get the fuck out of here.
Right.
And then I sensed he was going to try and hit me. So I did a double foot out on his elbows and I shoved him to the ground. And then when he got up, I saw his arm move, indicating the kick he was about to throw at me.
Right. Try to sucker punch.
Right?
Yeah.
So I ducked the kick, and when he kicked, I used a futsal to attack his balance. And when he fell, I was gonna kick him in the face. But then I said, that would be nice. So I ran and hit him. And said,
Get out.
I was a little upset.
Yeah, it sounds like it just a little bit.
Right.
But again,
You know,
that disrespect seemed to be the whole time.
I'm a human being, you know. I held back as much as I could, but listen, I'm a grown man. I'm from Brooklyn. I'm a father, a grandfather. You know, I'm in a private space that's supposed to be a safe place, and this young man brought this energy in here. In fact, the two people brought that energy in here. That young man is 34 years old, grown man with enough sense to know better than to do what he did when he was here. And you're not going to touch me in my face and expect for that to happen, right? And it seemed like, you know, those Karens who, you know, he did this and then says, "Oh, why'd you sucker punch me?" And I'm like, really? You all of this, and now you want to play the victim, right? Okay. Yeah, the victim. Yeah. After that, you want to be the victim, right? You know, the police and detectives were like, "Listen, thank you so much for filming that, because that film is as clear as day what happened. Right. Had you not had this film, I don't know what would have happened. This would have not been a good road for you. You know, white guy gets beat up by a black guy. His story is whatever. You got to take his word against mine. You don't, you know."
Yeah.
You know, the detective saw the film and was like, "Listen, man, it's clear as day. We're so glad you had this. This makes it so much easier for us." You know, and again, do you want to press charges against him because he assaulted you? You know, and I declined to press charges. But after all these death threats from people online and all the mouthing off, it really did make me think maybe I should just go press charges against him. But I didn't do that.
Got it. Yeah.
But you know, you don't get disrespectful to people.
Absolutely.
You know, you don't do that.
Yeah.
And you don't reward bad behavior, and I'm not going to reward his poor behavior.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to turn the other cheek. I'm not a Buddhist monk. You know,
Right.
You know, I've trained at Shaolin, and with Shaolin monks, I even taught a Shaolin monk. But I'm not a Shaolin monk.
I just wanted to put things in context for people, you know, for people that are just kind of the keyboard warriors and be like, "Oh, you should definitely listen." You know what I mean? There's always two sides of the story. But let me, for the audience, let them know if they would like to. Are you taking on students, or how does that work? Or
we can do an evaluation, but I don't necessarily take on private students. So I do private lessons. You can reach out to me at sifurahsun@gmail.com, SIFURAHSUN@gmail.com. You can reach out to me at Sifu Rahsun on Facebook, or Rahsun Herkul on Instagram, or Rahsun on Twitter. Right?
There you go.
Okay.
Cover it all. I ended off. I got 5 crucial questions for Kung Fu Masters. I'd love to ask you if that's cool.
Oh, all right.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
I think it's just as important, if not more important, in the old days now, because of the different iterations of the dummy now. So wooden dummy training is for conditioning, for timing. It's amazing when you don't have a live partner to work with. So you have something to work with at home. But now, since I've developed the long arm wooden dummy, it gives a whole new dimension to the dummy. Now it's a dummy that fights you back, and you have to really have your timing and positioning. It works your footwork and all this. There's octopus dummies and you know, dummies with flexible arms, and there's all these different iterations that people are being really creative with. So I think that wooden dummy training is just as important now, if not more important, because of the different iterations of the dummy and the things that you can do with it. I think forms are important, especially if you have an understanding of them, right? So I developed this program called Silimtao 2020. Well, the 2020 program, you know, 2020, right?
Yeah.
See it better, right? Not that year that we don't talk about.
Forget that one.
So 2020 program is pretty much giving insight into the form, so that it's not just this esoteric movements anymore. Now you're actually doing the form with practical intention, because you're understanding now what the movements mean. So basically what I did was I took all the forms and made them into 2-man sets, where someone's feeding you the energy and the strikes that you need and what you're responding to. So you're not just doing Silimtao anymore with just these abstract, you know, movements. You're actually doing the techniques against a partner. So the forms are important, so that you get the structure, the timing, the delivery that you need. And if you can fine tune it and come up with a way for the students to be able to grasp the practical understanding of it sooner, I think that's a great thing. I think that's why I developed the 2020 program. right? Not everyone joins martial arts for the same reason. Most people join MMA for the same reason, okay? Right? But not everyone joins Kung Fu and martial arts for the same reason. Some people just want fitness or health, or some people want self-defense, or very few people in the spectrum of Chinese Kung Fu or martial arts want to get into fighting as a sport. And then for those guys, you have to find a teacher or trainer who also has that mindset. So it's kind of interesting to kind of whittle down and find, be the martial artist that wants that, and then find a trainer who can deliver that, and who wants that for you. So it's few and far in between to find that match, right? You have to find what suits you. So you got to look around and find a martial arts instructor that suits you and suits your needs. And when you find them, hopefully it's the martial arts trainer that you want. A bad rap, I don't know, because I'm gonna just say it. So you train jiu-jitsu grappling for 3 or 4 years, right? Or 5 years, right? And you train boxing for 3 or 4 or 5 years, and you train kickboxing for 3 or 4 or 5, and you train Muay Thai for whatever. I don't personally think that you stood enough time in any one art to really be proficient at it. And then you become, you've got a mediocre amount of skills in each one of these arts, and then you put them together to become, it just sounds really bad, right? But you after training an art for 30 years, you're like, wow, I'm not the same that I was 5 years ago, or 10 years ago, or 15 years ago, because I've grown. Right. But if you don't get yourself the opportunity to grow in something, and you just, I got 3 years in jiu-jitsu, now I'm going to move on to this, you never really get the fine-tuned, wonderful aspects of jiu-jitsu, right? Because you left too soon. And the same with all these other arts. I think if you just spend a little bit more time in something, you might find the answers in the art that you're in, right? If you do jiu-jitsu for 15 years, and you might have the answers for dealing with a Wing Chun guy or a boxer, or you might find the answers. The answers might be there in your art. But everybody kind of got they want it now, so it's the I want it now attitude. Yeah, I don't want to downplay anything or put anyone down. I'm just saying that if you put more time into any one of these arts, you'd be more proficient at it. And I think that traditional martial artists, they put the time in, but again, not everyone is into it for the same reasons. I don't know. It's been interesting because I have to learn, a bit of the language and the culture, so it keeps me open-minded. I get to learn about other cultures and other people. I went to China, I went to Hong Kong. I've gotten to travel and go to Australia and teach this art. Even in China, they were wondering, why are these foreigners teaching our art? It's part of me since I was a kid, so it's just so ingrained in me that it's really interesting to think about it. When I went to Australia and had to train, so when I got to Australia, Grandmaster Chung called me and said, when you get off the plane, go straight to sleep, because when you wake up, you have to do a demonstration for the abbot of Shaolin. And I'm like, oh, okay. Thanks for the heads up, right? So I go get some sleep. I wake up in the morning. His wife and kids, we're getting in the car. We're driving to Shaolin Temple in Narrawarren in Australia, and we're literally choreographing our movements in the car, what we're going to do for this demonstration. Because I'm like, yeah, this black guy from Brooklyn is going to do a demo for Shaolin, right? What am I going to do to impress them? So, I do the demo. Shaolin does their demo. Shaolin is just amazing. I'm just like floored by their abilities. And the abbot Xiongxin left his top warrior monk as a cultural exchange, and Wang Bo, my master, you know who Wang Bo is, I'm sure. So Wang Bo was left in Australia as a cultural exchange, and it was my job to teach him his Wing Chun, and he's teaching me Qigong and tumbling. And so I'm like, oh, I'm got to teach this Shaolin monk, warrior monk Wing Chun. What am I doing, right? That's awesome. And he's probably like, yeah, this black guy from Brooklyn is going to teach me Kung Fu, right? So obviously I had to show my worth and prove that I was worthy of teaching this warrior monk, you know, this particular martial art. And one of the things about, you know, being African-American guy in from Brooklyn, in my kind of, you know, being able to have to teach this to, you know, even Chinese people. You know,
Right.
I've been in New York as a maybe by the time I was training Isaac, I had 2 Chinese students, 5 years old and 8 years old, private students. None of them spoke English, and I don't speak Mandarin.
Got it. Okay.
Right? I speak a little bit of Cantonese, right? But I don't speak Mandarin, so the language barrier, it's challenging, I guess, you know, teaching from, you know, a culture that's outside of your own. But I think if you just learn about it and grow with it and make it part of yourself, then it makes it a lot easier. Yeah, love what you do. I mean, if it's a chore to get up and go do this, then it's probably not for you, right? But if you really enjoy this, if this is your passion, if you can wake up in the morning and just really love this and love teaching and growing, then I mean, that's pretty much all it is, right? The more you do it, the better you'll become at it. Don't let anything kind of, you know, hold you back, because if it's your passion, just go with it.
All right, so there it is, another 5 crucial questions with yet another Kung Fu master. This time we finally got Sifu Herkel's side of the Waldo Incident. So for all those various speculation videos that are out there, take them with a grain of salt, right? But give me your thoughts as always, comment down below, and subscribe, of course, if you haven't already. Keep you guys up to date, get those beautiful alerts whenever we drop something brand new on the channel. And of course, share. That's how we grow. Let's go, you know. And now, of course, as promised, are you ready for some self-defense?
This is for a rear choke, right? And it doesn't require much strength or any strength really. And it's you can teach it to like a smaller person to deal with a bigger person. And I really love this because, again, you don't have to like muscle through it. You know, he chokes you from behind, right? Mm-hmm. So first I want you to turn your neck, right? So that he doesn't get you an air choke, right? It turns it into a blood choke, right? So you by yourself, you know, a couple seconds, right? Right? So you got this, right? So now you can hold on to 2 hands if you want. Now, I'm assuming his stance is wider, so I'm just going to step out a bit before I turn. So the trick is I'm just taking my shoulder and I'm dipping it through the side, right? So now he's not threatening me with the choke anymore. So my free hand, I just right? And now I have all this wonderful things to attack, right? Yep. So I'm going to show you real easy, right? Yep. Just turn your head toward my fist. Look at my good hand, right? Yep. Good. Step out with your right foot. Right foot to your right. Good job, right? Turn your good job. Yep. Dip the shoulder around. Nice work. Yep. Now your hand, you want to find it? You just touch my back, right? Touch my back and go all the way up. Thumb in the eye. Oh yeah. And thumb in the eye socket right here. Right. There you go. Okay. Now peel it back like an orange. Good job. Then you got the throat or anything on the center line to attack, right? So it's not about me being the tough guy. I just want to show the technique. So if he can do it to me, I can do it to him. Maybe you can teach it to your daughter. It's pretty simple, right? You grab, you're like, oh, right? And you're safe. Pull this guy back, right? You see, and you got all these wonderful targets to attack, right? Or from behind, right? Or be creative.
Alrighty, tighty whitey, see some stuff in there that you could use? I hope so, because choke defenses are very vital out there in this day and age, as you guys know, when it comes to assault. So hopefully that technique that Sifu Herkel just dropped might be valuable to you and yours later on. Do not practice any of these at home without proper supervision, okay? Let's not go choking out your baby brother or sister, just trying to check and see if these techniques actually work. Be careful. Now, thanks again to Sifu Herkel and his students for being a part of this video.
Hey, this is Sifu Herkel, and thanks for watching Kung Fu Chronicles.
Check out a couple of other videos you may like while you're here. Stay safe. See you all in the next round, and of course, keep punching.